Welcome to the Heartflow Hallmark Podcast. I am here with Kristoffer, Polaha, and Steven Tobolowsky. I'm so happy to meet you guys. I am sad that my co-host Kirsten can't be here, but I'm going to start out with the questions on Mimics, which is available in theaters next week. So I'm going to start off with Chris. What is your favorite aspect of this story as a director and a lead actor?
I think my favorite aspect of Mimics is just how much fun the movie is. I think, the intention was to make a really great piece of entertainment. There was a lot of complaints coming out of Hollywood about redundancy and reuse of IP, and that the cinematic experiences is starting to wane. And my answer to that call was, well, let's make something that's entirely new, and let's bring a brand new villain into the Hollywood, scope of the stratosphere with Fergus, who is a lot of fun, and. Yeah, I think people can expect, it's a 95-minute movie, and I think they can expect something entirely new and something that they've never seen before. And I also just want to put it out there, if you're not a horror fan, this is a movie that I would categorize as fright light. There's no bloody gore, there's a few jump scares, but it's more like, imagine sitting around a campfire and having Steven Tobolowsky tell you a kind of a spooky ghost story. And every once in a while, you're going to check over your shoulder to make sure there's not something coming out of the darkness for you. But it's not like a horror. It's not a hardcore horror fan movie. So that's what you're expecting. You'll be disappointed if you're afraid to go because you think it's going to be too scary. I think you can go and have a really good experience.
This next one is actually for both of you. So I'll start out with Steven. What made you want to do this specific role? This is a lot darker than your recent roles. So what was the thing in the script that made you go, I really want to play this character?
Kristoffer. Kristoffer. We had worked together before. He's a great professional. I had no idea he had this ability to do different people's voices. And so for me, it became like a magic show because he does it for real. I think there was something, either Chekhov or Stanislavski, and they said if you do something real, it will get the audience's attention. Like if you're having a scene, drink tea. So you're pouring the tea while you're having the conversation. The audience will be glommed on seeing something real. Kristoffer does these voices for real, so I'm there in awe watching this guy. We acted together before. It's like, that you've worked with someone before and you find out that they're a famous magician and they could, wait, Steven, I think you got a rabbit behind your head. And, Kristoffer like, wow, help me, please. So it was Kristoffer that made me want to do it. And also the fact that we were doing it in Reno, his home. And also, when we were all kids, Kristoffer, I don't know about you, when I was about 5, I wanted to play a game with the kids in my neighborhood called Let's Make Movies. And they said, well, how do you play Let's Make Movies? I said, well, it's the same thing as like playing house or playing cowboys and Indians, except we're doing it in a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing it in a movie. And so we would play all these games, but pretend we were in a movie. I feel like what Kristoffer has done, and this is kind of a spooky, either you have something wrong with you or it's just part of humanity being fulfilled in the grandest sense, is I'm talking to Kristoffer, you made the childhood dream come true. It's the first time I've ever experienced in my life that somebody says to their friends, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to do these voices and we're going to turn it into a movie and it's going to be a little bit creepy and a little bit fun. And they do this as children, in first grade or something like that?
Yeah. The writer and I met in first grade. I've known Mark Oakley since first
grade.
God.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
It never happens. And then here it is years later, we're all so close to the grave. and, and Kristoffer makes this dream come true with his friends from first grade in his hometown of Reno. I mean, it's something that just doesn't happen. And I just felt lucky to witness it.
Wow. That just gave me chills. You know, I've never met any other person, Stephen, and this is not this. This is the first time I've heard your story about let's make movies. When I was a kid, I would do the imagination games, and I would be a soldier or a boxer, but I always was a soldier or a boxer in a movie. I was doing cuts, like my language was cinematic. So while I didn't name it, make movies, that's exactly what I was doing. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, Billy Hart and I, our dream was not to do voices, but to capture every deadly thing that lived in our neighborhood. Because I grew up in Oak Cliff outside of Dallas, and we were one of the few places that had all 4 poisonous snakes of the United States in like our backyard. We had giant tarantulas, scorpions, black widows. And so we formed the Dangerous Animals Club. And that's what we called it. And we had a clubhouse. Billy, I think, was president of the Dangerous Animals Club. And the Dangerous Animals Club came to an end when we caught a dangerous animal.
And you realized.
A large scorpion. And we put it into the clubhouse. And the jar it was in fell over.
Oh, God.
And so we had to run out of the clubhouse because now the dangerous animal was in charge of the clubhouse.
Yeah, he took over.
And we never went back to the clubhouse. But in an amazing thing, I got it here.
It's the name
I ended up writing this story down.
Yeah.
And Simon & Schuster heard about it, and they said, can you do a book of this? And so I wrote a book called The Dangerous Animals Club, published by Simon & Schuster.
Amazing.
So the dream came true. I wanted to show you the copy of the book.
You don't have, I was going to plug it for you because I know you've written 2 books.
I've written, well, I did The Dangerous Animals Club. And Simon & Schuster said, well, you know, we love this and people really love these stories. They're crazy about childhood. And he says, but there's always kind of a spiritual bent to your stories. Can you do something with more aim toward the spirit, more and less on the scorpions? So then I did My Adventures with God, which was the second book of short stories about, you know, I broke my neck riding on a horse on the side of an active volcano in Iceland. And I survived. I had triple bypass surgery. I survived. And my talk with the rabbi after my surgery. All these horrible things. I was held hostage at gunpoint in a grocery store when I was 22.
It's crazy.
And I survived. And I came home. I mean, I'm talking, the guy has a gun to my head. I'm seeing SWAT guys going around at the front of the store. I see the back of an interviewer like you, Noah, like talking out by the truck with a camera on him. Like back here in the Piggly Wiggly, we got a gun thing happening. The only way I got out of it was inviting the gunman to come home to dinner with me, with my girlfriend.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't think... I didn't have a piece of... So he has a gun to my head. I said... Look, I got to go now. Here, let me give you my address. And I tore off part of the bag that you put the fruit in, like the brown paper sack. And I didn't have a pen. I said, do you have a pen on you? And in a scene that you would never believe in a movie, he had a gun to my head and he pulls out a fountain pen and hands it to me. And I was so scared, I couldn't think of a phony address. So I gave him my real address. And then I push forward and I feel the gun go into the back of my head and a voice comes into my head saying, keep walking, just keep walking, keep walking. If you get to the corner of the aisle, you'll be home free. Get to the end of the aisle. So I get to the end of the aisle and SWAT team guys jumped over the food. And next time you're in a grocery store, look how tall those shelves are.
Yeah,
the food massive. Jumped over the food, had this guy bound and gagged like a rug, and they carried him out. I'm walking around in this empty store, go up to the empty cash register. Cop pats me on the shoulder and says, pal, you could just go. I went home to Beth with my chicken and my Italian Swiss colony wine, and she says, where were you? I said, well, I was just held hostage at gunpoint. She says, well, it's awfully late. I said, well, the hostage at gunpoint thing takes a lot longer than you would think.
Yeah,
so why don't we just have I had these experiences happen. And so I was happy to bring that kind of experience, I guess. I mean, I'm saying the same thing kind of happens to me in Mimics, right? I kind of become a victim of of foul play in sort of a way.
Yeah, well, in a way, yeah.
From a mysterious perpetrator.
Yeah. You know what, Stephen? As you're talking, I just had the coolest idea. We should turn My Adventures with God into a series of, like, do you remember the Tarantino film Four Rooms?
Oh, yeah.
Where you just do these little tiny vignettes of like these moments where you're like, okay, I cannot explain that other than divine intervention. Because that scene, like, imagine a gun and then the guy takes a pin out and he's like, yeah, here.
Yeah, here,
the whole thing, you're like,
I write down the real address.
That's got to be in a movie someday.
You'll be happy to meet Beth. She's really sweet.
She's great. She'll make a great chicken. She'll make great Swiss chicken.
Oh, horrible, horrible, horrible.
But see, Noah, that right there, that's the chemistry. That's why I've wanted to work with Steven since the first time I met him. I was so honored when he said yes. We got on a phone call and I was at the Directors Guild of America Theater. I rarely go there, but my son got accepted into a college and they were doing sort of a screening at the DGA theater in Beverly Hills, California. And I had my first creative phone call with Steven about Mimics. And he said, you know what? I did not expect this script to be as good as it is. And he said, it's like Faust. He's like, you even got Virginia in there, which I don't know if Mark knew or not, but like, same name for the woman who's willing to go to extremes to save the man that she loves. And there is something it is an adventure with God. It is the kind of movie that there is a little bit of, there's something in it that's a little deeper than meets the eye. But I was so excited when Steven said yes. And I think what you'll realize, there's a series of yeses that allowed that movie to exist. And they all happened very quickly, starting February of 2024. First money in, second money in, fully greenlit, pre-production in May, camera June 10th, getting yes by all the actors to say, yeah, we're gonna come into Reno and we're gonna support you. You've got nothing to show that you can do this and pull this off, but we're just gonna see how it goes. To then the post-production, the story of that is even, my editor and I went to high school together. I went to a boarding school named Robert Louis Stevenson, and I was an RA in Day Hall. And I was doing my nightly rounds, and I walked into Barry Wise's room with his roommate, Charlie, and I said, hey, man, I was picking up their guitar and playing guitar, and I said, Barry, what do you want to do when you get older? He's like, well, my uncle is an editor, and I think I'd like to edit. And he's been working at the highest level of editing for Jerry Bruckheimer, for CSI, for 25 years. But he doesn't get to flex the creative muscle because he's doing TV. And so we worked on a short film I did called Work of Art. And I called Barry and I said, hey, man, I got another one for you. It's a movie this time. And it just happened to be that we had the strike and there was no work and he had time. And so we were able to edit that film from August of 2024 until March of 2025, which is almost unheard of, to be able to just go in and massage the movie, screen the movie, test it with different audiences in New York and Nashville and LA, and then really get a film that we were happy with. And then yes to the distribution. I mean, the fact that we're going to be in, several hundred theaters on Friday the 13th for a tiny independent film. I mean, it's a cool thing. Now we just need people to buy tickets. So go buy a ticket.
And I want to bring up something technical here with Kristoffer as a director. As a, writer, star of the show, like this ventriloquist talent from nowhere, but as a director, only 3 times have I been involved with his directorial technique. And that was in all the Haul Out the Holly, Haul Out, all the Hallmark movies, the Haul Out movies, and Groundhog Day with Harold Ramis. The same techniques McLean Nelson uses for the Haul Out, for the Hallmark movies, and Harold Ramis for Groundhog Day. And that is, we do the scene exactly as written. We do whatever, And now it's free money. Do whatever you want. Start to improvise. And so we did that in this movie. You know, we do it exactly as the script is. We do it by the book. And then as we get that locked, we move into just messing around and just adding stuff. And it was amazing that some of the stuff that we added, I think, ended up in the movie.
Well, you know, I was just going to say the two things that stand out to me. First off, Stephen his character goes through, I don't want to spoil it, but there's something that happens to Stephen, and I really did make him go through his paces. And I said, dude, I want this to feel deliberate, and I want this to be a chance for people to grieve it out, you know, like that we're gonna let them go through something. And Stephen was 100% game to do that. But before filming even began, we had a meeting at the hotel he was staying at, and he told me a story about boots and going fishing with your wife, right?
No, with my girlfriend before my wife.
Okay, a girlfriend before the wife. And the story about the boots made it into the movie. And then Stephen added a line, and he said, there's a cost to everything. And that honestly, it bolstered the theme of the movie and basically became the theme of the movie. Like, you can take a shortcut, but there's going to be a cost. So either you pay the price up front like everybody else, or you take a shortcut, but there's going to be a cost at the back end. And Sam learns that lesson, and it becomes this parable. So it was really beautiful. And then Stephen added, because he says goodbye to his children. He said, loves ya, with the S on the end. And we had that in the movie, which I love because it's a beautiful nod to you and your family. And that to me is where when the humans behind the art start to speak out a little bit, and you get to discover, like, you start to open up and look in and go, oh, there's Stephen's heart. Oh, that's Kristoffer's heart. Oh, that's actually how Mark thinks about the world. And that's where I think art becomes a lot of fun, because we get to hide, right? We can play like, hey, it's me. And then, nope, it's a character. It's a character. Now here I am. And that's kind of a fun thing.
So I do have two more questions.
Okay. Yep.
But I have to bring my co-host in because she asked me to ask two specific questions to both of you.
Okay.
For Stephen, she loves Holly the Holly is probably her favorite Christmas movie Hallmark has ever done. What was it like getting to play off of the hilarious Melissa Peterman, and how is she like in real life as to an on-screen personality?
She's a monster. Melissa is one of the greatest people ever. She is an absolute professional. So much fun to be in the movie. But with McLean, you know, I would do these scenes with Melissa. I said, this is the deal. I'll do any scene with Melissa, but she has to have the last line, because there's no way I could top her. She is the funniest person I've ever met. All she does is crack me up. The hardest, she never stops. She never stops. She is what I call the closer. So I'm happy to do any scene with her as long as she's the closer, because then I know the scene will work. She's too much. Just the funniest person on earth.
She's whip smart, man. She is
unbelievable.
Yeah. You need to tag her in this so she can hear that.
She's there's something wrong with her. I mean, it's impossible for a person to be that funny all the time with absolutely no motivation.
And dry, right? Like really surprising. Yeah. It's surprising humor. You're just like, where did you think of that?
What?
My question from Kirsten for Kristoffer is, she loves the storytelling abilities in every Hallmark movie. How do you approach each role and make it authentic while drawing in the audience?
That's a wonderful question. Tell her. And, you know, the thing about Hallmark was that it felt like Stephen just used this word, free money. Like, and McLean Nelson will say it's house money. I always treated Hallmark as an arena to play in. And what I wanted to do was make sure that every time I showed up on a screen, I wasn't just playing the same character. Like, I didn't want to just play Chris every time. And so, for example, Small Town Christmas, I literally imitated Jimmy Stewart the whole movie. We just dialed it down a little bit, but the whole thing was very much like his cadence and a little. And then I channel Woody Allen for one, which I know is taboo. We can't talk about that anymore. But like Woody Allen was the basis of one character. Jack Kelly for Biltmore Christmas was Cary Grant, and I just study these actors. I watch all the movies, and for Hearts of Christmas was George Clooney's Up in the Air. So I really do figure out who the character is, who I want to try to portray, and then I try to give it a little different. Now, the one thing I was going to do, which I never got permission for, was I wanted to do one with an Irish accent. And Randy Pope was like, "No, that's too far. They know you're not Irish." I was like, "Come on, it'll be fun." He's like, "No, no, no." So you might get an Irish guy for me one day.
There's always the next one.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
guys, we're out of time. But before I wrap this interview up, I'm going to sneak one more in there from Steven. This is your season, really. You are known as Ned Ryerson. Do you get tired of fans calling you Ned Ryerson, or is it just a common occurrence now where you just embrace it?
It's an honor. It's a privilege to have been in that movie. It's rare that you're in a movie that becomes iconic. Now, when people say it's Groundhog's Day, they think of the movie. It's the new Wizard of Oz. So there's a thing in the Talmud, which is behind me. It says, always give honor to the place where you have received blessing. And I received blessing from Groundhog Day. So I honor it. I received blessing, hey, from Chris. From Chris. I honor him too.
Love you, man.
Well, thank you guys. And as always, like, subscribe for more. I hope to have a longer interview with each of you. And as always, guys, keep your heart full of Hallmark.